Uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness with your hosts John McCaskill and Will Schneider. Here we focus on helping men and those with men in their lives solve some of life's complex challenges through understanding the practices of mindfulness and how they can help. Each episode is in an environment free of judgment and criticism, with a focus on authenticity and inner peace. Let's dig in.
Well, welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness, everyone. Where each week, my co-host and my co-host John over there and me, we an aspect of mindfulness and make it meaningful to you. Honestly, I was a little perplexed about how to lead off this show today. The things that come up to as I studied our guest, William Palmer, are the importance of compassion and how compassion creates an open mind and heart, and what it means to other someone and what othering is, and what it does, and how knowing what this is may help you in all your relationships. We're going to learn today what it's like to serve 31 years in prison, then be subject to a stifling parole system. This is a little bit of information about our guest, William Palmer, today. He goes, as a desperate 17-year-old juvenile, he committed robbery, and he was tried as an adult. That led to a 31-year-long incarceration in the state of California. Today, if he committed the same crime, he would likely not have been sentenced as an adult and served no more than 7 years. Now out of prison in 2019. Is that right, William? 2019, you got out of prison. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And having gone through parole, right, William is passionate about helping others and is living his purpose as a voice of system-impacted individuals that are now in the reentry program. His experience with law enforcement, prison, and parole qualifies him to create a responsive narrative to reform the system-based policies and laws. Here is some more information about our guest. He's been appointed to the Reentry Council as the sentencing commissioner, resides as the co-chair on the Legislative Policy and Practices Subcommittee, and a member of the Direct Services Subcommittee. He has just been appointed to the San Francisco Sheriff's Oversight Board. He volunteers his time with several organizations dedicated to system-impacted individuals, such as United Players, I love that name, and the Dachi Project, Marin Shakespeare Company, and also serves as an actor there, which I think is awesome, and former host of One Community, One Mic for All of Us or None. He is also now the executive director of Life After Next. We'll learn about what that is. And also, he's just been appointed the editor of a publication that we'll talk about that as well as we get into the show. So welcome, William. We have John's going to just bring in a short announcement. We'll have a little breath practice to begin, and then we'll jump in and we'll learn more about our guest, William Palmer, today. John.
Yeah. All right. So we continue to work with Movement RX. Same announcement as last week. We are working with Movement RX and Dr. Teresa Larson, and we are bringing you the new and improved 90-day movement and mindfulness experience. That was a 21-day experience before. Now it's a 90-day experience. That's what you guys have asked for. You've asked for more than 21 days. We've got you covered. So we're going to put the link out there in the show notes. But for those of you listening or watching right now, it's movement-rx.com/mindfulness-experience. And then if you use the code M2100, you'll get $100 off on signing up for that 90-day challenge. Over and above that, we want you to follow us and subscribe to our show on YouTube, and make sure you hit the little bell when you do subscribe so that you get notified when there's new content out there. And the new link is way easier to remember. The new link is simply youtube.com/@ the @ symbol, Men Talking Mindfulness. So youtube.com/@ Men Talking Mindfulness. That all said, let's jump into our 5-breath opening practice. We're keeping it short and sweet, but we are grounding ourselves before we get into this very important topic and get into the meat and potatoes with William. So go ahead and get into that comfortable position, whatever is safe and comfortable for you at this time. And simply bring your attention to your breath, paying attention to the physical sensation of the breath in and the breath out. Begin by breathing out as much air as you can. Nice deep breath in, filling your lungs all the way up, straightening up but not stiff. Hold it and relax. Holding empty at the bottom. Nice deep breath in. Noticing the expansion of your lungs and belly. Holding at the top and relax. Holding empty at the bottom. Deep breath in. Relaxing your face, relaxing your jaw, relaxing your body as you take that deep breath in and holding at the top and release. Same thing. Start to notice where tension and stress may be manifesting in your body and release that. Let it go. Holding empty at the bottom and deep breath in. Last one. Hold and relax, letting it go, letting it go, letting it go, and bringing some movement into your body. Maybe moving your head around, loosening your neck, and opening your eyes if they were closed, and bringing yourself into the here and now. And let's get started. Turning over to you, Will. Let's kick it off.
Yes, we are here. And William, thank you for joining us today. I gave a little bit of intro about your story. Maybe if you'd like, fill in some of the gaps of who you are, how you got here today, and some of the things that you're putting out in the world. And we can talk about all those things today.
Peace, John and Will, and to all our viewers. This reading of peace comes with love and unquestionable love. The gaps is huge. I'll try to fill in some of the most important parts. My name is William Tariq Palmer II. I like to call myself the original Will I Am.
Now I got some fucking problems, man. My dad used to call me Will I Am when I was a kid. So I'm just saying.
Okay. I'm 1970. If you got that beat, then you can have it.
1972. All right, you got me.
But we can share. It's
okay.
enough.
Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you.
Yeah. I was born into a community that I felt was loving and safe and secure. I remember at an early age, I could walk to a store called TG&Y that were literally blocks away, crossing busy streets and intersections at a very young age. I mean, 5 years old, maybe 4 or 5. Like my earliest memories, I remember using my little kick and go and getting my ass out and about and exploring my world. And I was safe and nobody said a thing. And I would go shopping for my mom with food stamps and didn't have no problem with it. I'm like, here you go, and give me my stuff, right? And that is probably the definition of who I am at my core. I have no boundaries or I have no limitations. I explore. And so when I started to learn the stories of how I was actually born into this world, my dad was like a Black Panther. He was in the Black Power movement of the 60s and 70s. And so soon after I was born, the police were shooting in my house to shoot him and chasing after him over a wall where he got shot in the back as he tried to escape. And so these images were already being planted into my mind, but they were already fed into my DNA. And so I was born into this movement. I was born into this struggle. Fast forwarding, my dad would only pop in and out at various times in my life. So we never had a continual father figure son relationship. When I was turning 9 years old, he would always answer my mother's call to come for help. And so he helped pack us up out of our house in this neighborhood and take us into this wealthy neighborhood where we were just wealthy enough to be the poorest in our neighborhood. And that had its challenges. But on the way to school before, he taught me my 9 timetables. And the magic of 9 times something equals 9 just resonated with me, right? And so soon I would become known as Soul Brother Number 9. And that's a part of how I got that name.
Love it.
And so I didn't have a orientation into this new environment that I was coming into, right? And so when I saw the materialism, I was like, is there something wrong with me? Or what am I doing wrong? And so I lost all focus in school. And I said, how I knew to say this, but by the time I was 25, which is the time that your mind becomes, your brain becomes fully mature, I said to myself at 9 years old, by the time I become 25, I'm going to be a millionaire. And I had no idea how I was going to get there. I just pronounced that. And so I dropped out of school at that time because I was pursuing how to become a millionaire. And just to move forward, I could tell you too, as looking back, I was holding my breath this entire time in life. I was not breathing. I was literally waiting to exhale because I had to, and just go through, just get through the next phase, get through the next day, get through the next
like a push, William, like just kind of push and drive and go, like that kind of energy. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay.
It was never a time of being relaxed. So I was never exhale, like he was holding at the bottom. And so incarceration found me. I mean, I got my apartment at 16. I lost it at 17 because I partied for a whole month straight in August celebrating. And then I found my job in the polo industry as a polo player, lost that because I partied too hard. And so here it is. I find myself in a desperate situation to racing after that $1 million where I was just this close already of getting it. And I decided to make a desperate situation, which was to rob somebody until I could find my next move. And again, I'm holding my breath. And that situation turned into a shootout, which he was the only one shooting. He was an off-duty Riverside Police Detective Sergeant, in which I apologize profusely and will always continue to live a life of remorse and make that up to him, to show him that I truly am apologetic. So I found myself being tried as an adult for kidnap with the intent to rob, which the county of Riverside could have charged me with robbery and kidnapping. I intended to rob him, yes, and it was only when I asked him for his ATM card that I then instructed him to the ATM in order to get the money. So I didn't intend to kidnap him in order to rob him. So anyway, that's a lot of legal jargon, but I point that out because the district attorney had an option of either saving my life and giving me a second chance or throwing me away.
Right.
And they chose to throw me away for any reasons. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Right. And I could say that if I was his kid, would he have made the same choice?
Sure.
No shit.
Yeah. If I was his brother, if I was his nephew, if I was the kid on his block, if I was the kid that went to school with him, I was another. I was somebody else. I wasn't worth saving. And even in the process of prosecuting me and housing me, CYA, back then, California Youth Authority, the reception center said, hey, this isn't a bad kid. He's not entrenched in crime. He's not a drug dealer. He's not a gang member. He actually just decided to do some stupid shit, right? We can actually save this one. We have a program here that would actually save him. And of course, we're not interested in that program. We only ask you one question. Would you house him until he's old enough to be sent to an adult facility? And they said, yeah. So even though I was found to be amendable, the court had no desire in amending me. And so I really point that out when we are creating policies like today with the interim district attorney of San Francisco, Britt Jenkins, who was revising a policy to try 16 and 17-year-old children as an adult, when science and data has already proven that is not the most healthy, holistic way of dealing with our children. So
I know I was not an adult at that age. Like
right
at 16 and 17, shoot, I wasn't at 25. I wasn't an adult. Still making stupid decisions. I'm not even sure today I am.
Well, it's interesting, like, sorry, William. So just to like, to have to see, my God, 17, 16, like we're just, especially like boys. I mean, we all know what it's like to be a boy, at that age and a young man. It's like, we're just stupid. We're like pushing boundaries. We're like trying to understand like where the boundaries are, and I think we, and it's just part of growing up in some ways, and maybe, and it's just part of life, and I just seems so harsh, to just be like, oh well, he's just that person's always going to be that kind of person, so let's just throw him in jail for a long time. But yeah, sorry,
And
continue.
Will,
Yeah.
they gave me 7 to life. We call it 7 up in the pen, right? They gave me 7 years, which is a minimum term that I have to do. So if you imagine at 17, if with that 7 years I would have been 24, I could have been housed continuously in IA at that time, because they release you at 25. That's the max. Now, how much time you got?
Right.
At the same time, that life sentence means, again, I could do forever. The judge literally said, even though you have a possibility of parole, you may never get out. So it's like, wow, you can still give me a tough sentence, but you still have the ability to let me go at some point. At the same time, and I say this as you say, why did they treat me this way? And I don't like to put a definite reason why, because I'm not reading their minds and I want to read their hearts. And I like to think the best of people. That's how I love people. I want to think the best of you, right? But at the same time, there was a kid in there with me. We got in there at the same time. I used to remember his name, and I haven't said it in so while, I forgot. Darren. Darren was his name. He had shot his father in the head with a deer rifle as he slept, and he had claimed child abuse, that he was just being tortured by his father. Let that be the case, right? But here it is, a guy who was capable of taking the life of his father. I didn't murder anyone. I didn't rape anyone, nor did I cause any great bodily injury. My gun had no bullets in it. I wore a ski mask. I didn't want to get caught, so that I cannot do this ever again. They gave him life in YA, and they gave me life in prison. The same court.
Wow. What's county. YA again? I'm sorry, I don't know what YA is.
California Youth Authority. So California Youth Authority is the mini pen. That's where you go when you're no longer a juvenile, but you're not yet an adult. So they send you to YA. That's what we call it. And so that goes to show you that even now with Brooke Jenkins is what she's doing, they are determining that there are certain people that are not worth saving just based on, and you can fill in the blanks. So you could, if I was holding my breath before now, I was definitely holding my breath now. How do I get through the first 7 years? And when you're in juvenile hall and YA and you're a non-affiliated person, I talked, even though I dropped out of school, I was raised by teachers. My mother, my aunties, and my grandmother were all teachers. So I talked pretty proper. I talk less proper now than I did then. So I sounded very educated or nerdy at that time in that environment. And so I would just get picked on because of the way I talked. Now you also were able to you were also able to dress in your street clothing to go to certain events and whatnot. They didn't have a strict clothing regimen back then. And so I had on Cavariccis and Cosby sweaters while they had on Dickies.
I remember the Cavariccis. Fucking Cavariccis. They were awesome. they're like fancy hammer pants kind of thing, right? They're
right?
Like big and wide. I'd see Cavariccis. That's hilarious. Anyway, sorry.
And so you have this preppy black kid mixing with these urban, tough, for lack of a better word, gangbangers who are dressing in their uniforms. I had no chance. I had to fight. There was no option. And so after 2 years of this, they finally sent me to my adult facility because they called me an assault on a minor, and the guy was older than I was. But I was an N number. I was an adult. He was a YA number, so he was still a child. See, how does that even work? It doesn't even make sense. Right. And so in prison, I also had to fight because of my age, again, my affiliation, and just not having what we call homeboys. I had nobody to say, this guy, he's with us. He's in this car. And so I was fortunate to have angels in prison. I know we don't think of angels living in prison, but I had men who were from the hood. When I was in their cell or around them, they was like, man, I like you. You shouldn't even. I heard this so many times. You don't belong here, by everybody but the officials. Wow. You're like, man, you don't belong here. Why are you here? So they would just take me under their wing and they would protect me. I had guys who were flamboyant, homosexuals who would talk to me for 5 minutes and say the same thing. And if anybody try to mess with me, they say, don't mess with little Will. Like, don't mess with him. He's cool. He's cool people. So you name it. Everybody that I had never came in contact in my entire life, pimps, hustlers, gamblers, you name it. When they got to know me, they protected me. It was only those people who had it in their heart to be predators that came after me. And so again, I pass no judgment on people. This is one of the reasons why I've met every single person you can find in the world inside of prison. And when we develop a personal relationship, we had a soul to soul connection. So the other end of soul brother number 9 is that's how I relate to people, soul to soul. You got a good soul, you my soul brother, and you my soul sister, depending on who you are, right? So that's how I began to live in prison, and I began to actually learn who I am. So I went from this preppy black kid to this very radical black person, because I was yet a man, this black boy growing up into himself, and started to understand all the things that I had no idea was going on prehistory to that point. So I studied Blood in My Eye by George Jackson. I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, which changed my life. That was the first book, and on and on. J.A. Rogers, Sex and Race, from Superman to Man, all his library, just all the library of J.A. Rogers. Go read it and to understand why I became who I am. And that still didn't do it. I taught myself how to read and write. I called myself misfunctioning illiterate. And so I got my GED. I got my AA degree, and I was studying to be a businessman with the 5 Ventures. I studied Shakespeare. I taught myself how to paint. I was taught how to be a yogi. I was taught all these things, but most importantly, I was also being taught Islam, and I was still holding my breath. Because there was something that I had not figured out. And so at the age of 45, and I'm gonna fast forward a little bit, I had lost my parents, both to a heart attack. My dad went first. He smoked some marijuana that he grew in a toxic field in a federal site. He thought he was slick by growing his marijuana on federal land, but it was toxic land. And so he smoked that and died of a heart attack. So it's poetic justice. I say that with a smile because I love my father, but you have to laugh
because I see you
story.
smiling.
You have to laugh. I
it's
cried
terrible,
for him.
but it's
Of
course.
I cried for him in the board. I hate it. I had never cried in the board ever before, but they asked me, what is the thing that you regret? And I said, I regret that my father would not see me free, get married, and have a child that I would name William Monroe Palmer III. And when I said that, the tears flowed for this man that never spent more than a month in my life, if you totaled up all the days. And I hated that I cried in front of them. I wish I would have had that moment to myself. But I had called my father when he was 40, when I was 40, and he was 70 something. And I said, Dad, I just don't think I'm gonna make it out of here. So we're gonna have to have that man-to-man talk now so that I can understand you, me, and life.
Wow.
And we had that talk. I said, hey, I'm gonna call you. I was using an illegal cell phone. So shout out to all you who uses illegal cell phones. You don't have to do that anymore, because me and my coalition fought to have free phone calls in California. The governor just
saw
signed
that
that
in the news. That's awesome.
Exactly. So
wow,
we
congratulations.
took that away. Thank you. And I said, hey, man, I'm going to call you back next week so we can go from 40 on up, because from birth to 40, I followed directly into his footsteps every single way, every attitude, the walk, the talk, everything. And I said, hey, I'll be back for the next year so I can know what to avoid, what pitfalls that I don't have to go in. And that next week was going to be Father's Day. And he passed away right before Father's Day of those reasons. So I was like, damn, I'm at a loss for my future. And then my mom, I was her second love. I'm a splitting image of my father, who was her first love. And when he passed away, it took its toll on her heart, and she died of a heart attack. Matter of fact, I was on another illegal cell phone calling her, and my sister answered the phone, and she was in the ambulance going to the hospital, where she never woke back up from her injuries, right? And so this shows you the signs in my life that was leading me to me at 45 years old. I've just been denied for the 10th time my parole suitability. I have fallen into a depression, and I heard this chant called "Man Up, Stand Up," and "Man Up" stands for making rational decisions, acting with precisions, never giving up your positions, uplifting yourself, your family, and community, positive living. And so I got out of my bed which I had never done unless I needed to take a shower because I couldn't stand my own funk, go eat something, or go use the restroom. That was the only time I got out of my bunk. So I got up out and I sat at the edge of at the edge of this bench, and I just wanted to listen. And these men, our peers, no staff, no CDCR at this time was doing this, taught me the difference between rational thinking and emotional thinking. So all of this progress that I have been making, trying to elevate myself, was doing me no good because I was doing it from an emotional point, still holding my breath. And when I figured out
William, can you teach us, sorry, can you teach us like that distinction that you're experiencing, you know what I mean, between rational brain, emotional brain? I mean, I think it's great for our audience to know. I mean, we've talked about it before in the show, but to hear from somebody where the light bulb went on, I think would be very helpful for our audience. And then please continue, but I think this would be a great little teaching moment here for our people.
So emotional is, I became Muslim because I needed peace in my life. I needed to feel better. I needed this. I needed that. But the rational reason was I needed discipline. I needed to understand myself. I needed to focus on what's important in life. And these tenets should give me that. But instead, I wanted to be emotionally accepted. I wanted to be emotionally accepted by these people. I became a painter because it emotionally calmed me down. Instead, I should have been a painter because I saw beauty. And I wanted to learn the mathematics and composition of how to reproduce that image on this platform and share it with others, and maybe even make a buck or two and have a strategy on how to be an artist that gets paid. You know, I was just painting and give it away. I made hundreds of artwork and I just gave it away because I was doing it out of emotion. I was emotional every time an officer said something and I didn't like it. So I responded in anger. I responded in the same likeness of what I was getting. The guy that was on the yard, oh, you fouled me? Well, I'm gonna foul you harder, because if you mess with me, you know, I'm weak. So everything was an emotional reaction, even if I was in the right, especially if I was in the wrong. And so I have to be able to take a breath finally in rational thinking, like, this guy hurt me because he's hurt. Instead of me fighting with my fists, I started to learn how to fight with my words. I say, hold on, bro. I love you, bro. What's wrong? What did I do? Share with me what I do. And then what can I do to make this right? And you'd be surprised how that would take them off guard. And they were like, huh? What kind of game you playing? I said, this isn't a game. Like, I had no idea that I was hurting you. And if I'm hurting you, let me find out how I can stop hurting you. And if you're hurting from some other reason, let's sit down, let's talk about it. You know, and I started to hold these circles, and I took these youngsters who was 25 or left, that me and my partner, Hunter, created this circle. And we had Mexicans, blacks, whites, Native Americans, and others. Others are Asians from different groups of Asia. They was too small to have their own category. And we practiced this with them to a point to where they wanted to break bread with each other. And in prison, if you're white and you break bread with a black person, you die. If you're Hispanic, especially Southerner, and you break bread with a Northerner, you die. These are the consequences. This ain't if you get caught. When they find out you drunk out of the same cup, you shared food with somebody, you sat at the table with somebody, and you interacted intimately with somebody, you die.
Wow.
These youngsters, after we taught them how to love themselves and each other, they wanted to break bread with each other. They wanted to defy the convict rules.
Sorry, I gotta ask. So the other side of the coin, right, is what are the folks who are running the prison thinking when they're seeing you all breaking bread together? Like, I'm sure in the past, like you said, if that breaking bread had happened, people die, or there's a riot, or there's a fight of some sort at least. So I'm sure they see you all together like, oh man, all hell is going to break loose. But then it doesn't, and you guys are actually sitting with one another, breaking bread in peace, loving one another. What's the reaction on their side? Their
first response was, no, you can't do that, because of what you just said. And we said, I said, then how are we going to effect change?
They won't have a job.
Your response is, What do you need so that we can protect these lives and allow them to do that? Because when they snitched, when they were a dropout, you created an entire yard called the PC yard so that these dropouts and these snitches can go live in that yard protected. But these men, these young men who are going from boyhood to manhood, when they decided to become men and function in a life of integrity, you said, oh no, we don't have anything to protect them with. They would even create a building for these people. And so we, the elders on the yard, have to go out before them and talk to their shot callers and say, these are going home. These men are going home. They're under our protection. And whatever we have to do, whatever influence that we have on this yard, you will create a war if you touch these men.
Wow.
Wow. How many people are we talking about like that are in the yard? Hundreds, what is it?
How many people were affected by this change?
Yeah, affected by the change, yes, but also like in that area, you know what I mean? Like when you're doing
well, the whole prison
PC,
is,
I guess, yeah.
4,000 plus. Each yard holds about 1,000 plus. So we're on one yard, and so that's 1,000. That was we had about 10 youngsters, so that's a dozen people facing 1,000 people that was thinking like convicts instead of like prisoners who were freeing themselves from prison.
Wow.
Wow.
And so these were the things that I was doing, and really didn't have an idea of what I was doing. I was just doing what I did, right? And so at 45, I came to this conclusion. My then girlfriend left me because of the 10th denial. She says, I can't go through another denial. I can't go through another preparation and all that. And I cried, and then I started to exhale. I said, good. That crying released me finally, because now I knew rational thinking and I wasn't emotional. I wasn't crying because I was emotional. I was crying because the plans that I had for us were no longer. And I was mourning that, that was a rational thought. Like, hey, this is no longer my reality and I'm sad. So I cried. I cried in front of 2 secretaries who asked me, how you doing today, William? And I told them what I was going through, and I just started crying right there in front of them. And they hugged me, which they're not supposed to, gave me some Kleenex, and I went back to work. And I sat and I started creating a vision board. And if I was at home, which I forgot my adapter, my computer was running out, so I had to come to work, I would have showed you my vision board. And I printed out email addresses, Studio 3 to the third power, William Monroe Palmer II at gmail.com. I printed all my company, my nonprofit, my for-profit, and my personal emails. I printed out the Rock of Gibraltar because my name is Tariq. I wanted to become a general. I wanted to become a leader. I wanted to become an executive director, a CEO, whatever it was. I wanted to be the man in charge. So I took this picture of the Rock of Gibraltar and put that as my centerpiece. I put Bismillah with me, in the name of God. This is what I'm going to start to create, what I'm going to start to manifest for your purpose that you have me in life. I put on this watch. It was a watch, but it wasn't this wooden one. But I put a picture of a watch because I wanted to respect time, because I had served time. I wanted time to serve me. And I knew the most invaluable thing in my life was going to be time, because no matter how healthy you are, if you don't have time to live, it means nothing. Doesn't matter how rich you are. If you don't have time to enjoy it, it means absolutely nothing. So time is the most precious thing that is given to each and one of us. And we have a limited amount of it. You're born to die. You are born to run out of time. And so I wanted to make the most of my time when I got out. I said, I didn't want to make up for time that I lost. I wanted to make the best use of my time that I have left. And so I put that watch on there. I put the Dallas Cowboys star with Jerry Jones as a cartoon because he just built his stadium. I had Kobe Bryant, the Mamba, going up.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to have that type of spirit, and I had painted a painting for him that I wanted to give to him, and hopefully one day I can give it to his family. There was a number of things that I had put on there. I had put on the reentry house that then girlfriend gave me so that I can go to, and that reentry house is now Life After Next, my own holistic reentry house. So everything on that vision board has actually manifested itself.
Wow.
Every single thing, things that I could not see how they were going to do from that prison bunk. This concrete enclosure with a slit window about this big that you see a part of the outside, that the sun only shined on you ever so often, and it's gone that quick. You know,
Wow.
in that surrounding, I had already started to expand my mind. This mindfulness practice that already started to take effect. Love
Right.
myself, love others, no matter what, foe or friend. And the day that I decided that, I even went to breakfast the next day and I said, I love you, or I said good morning to everybody that on purpose that I knew I had conflict with, correctional officers, staff, and I call in general inmates. Those are people who are sick and still have some healing to do. Convicts are people who are still convicted in their crime and are committing crime inside of prison. And prisoners are those who know that they are locked up and looking for the key to escape. And so
Wow.
I had talked to all of them that were my nemesis. And they, when I said, hey, good morning, with love, they all responded in kind. I didn't
It's
even have to
infectious.
ask them to change. They changed
Mm-hmm.
instantly. And I said,
Mm.
whoa, this shit works. I was like,
Yeah, there you
wow,
go.
is this really working? I beta tested this thing to death.
I love it.
And then I said, okay, now I'm going to free myself. And I talk about my key of freedom. And the key that you hold on to, that was my way of life. See, that's what I use every day to hold on to, that little piece. And then the little grooves on the key, right? That slides in. That's what I hold most valuable, and that's love. That's this thing that everything is connected to. What I hold on to, and these teeth: integrity, courage, empathy. All these values in which I hold make up these teeth. And when you slide that into that keyhole, no matter what, it's a master key. It opens up every lock. And I turned it and I unleashed this strategy to my pro bono team of Melvin E. Myers, who was headed by Megan Halfstab, my girl. She was a poodle in parole number 10. And by the time parole number 11 came around, parole hearing number 11, she was a champion pit bull, because I fought with her like brother and sister. I said, no, you are going to be the toughest attorney, like those on TV, those that defended OJ. I need you to be tough. And she was like, no, you don't want to make them mad. I said, no, they better not make you mad. And it took me almost a year to turn her in from a poodle to a champion pit bull. And she was. We went in there. Our strategy was this. Henry Butler had
So just
argued.
so a little bit more backstory there, William. So this is your 11th parole hearing, right? So you're already in prison. How long, right? And then maybe just walk us through, like, what is it to, get in front of the parole board, and then obviously take us through, how your pit bull lawyer, what were the results, please,
Okay, so the right after the hearing of number 10, I went up to the bars, because they separate us by bars at this time, right? And I said, Megan, give me one more chance. Even at that moment, I was already in this process. I said, give me one more chance. I'm going to help you help me. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but I'm going to help you help me. She said, she had to go take this back to Jeff Yost, who's the head partner, right? And she contacted me later and said, okay, we're going to do one more hearing. I said, okay, this is what I need from you. I need you to make me a part of every decision that you guys make, every work product that's going on. I said, I'm going to go to the law library and I'm going to ask my buddies, man, these legal eagles, these guys who are whiz at law, to teach me the basics. And when I learned the basics, I said, I got an idea. I said, Henry Butler just started on term setting. For 40 years, the Board of Parole Hearings had an illegal sentencing scheme to stop lifers. Lifers is anybody with 1 year to life or life without. So they classified all of us as indeterminate sentence lifers. But we're not supposed to be the same as people with life without. It's not supposed to be the same with life with. And if you have 1 to life, 7 to life, 15 to life, and 25 to life, all those have different regulations, but they just lumped us all. They said, until we find any of you suitable, you're not eligible to have your term set. And the governors were saying that none of you with life is going home except in a pine box or with a toe tag. That was their way of being tough on crime. And the public thought they were being tough, but they were actually being criminals, because this was illegal. And so I said, so Henry Butler, who's become a personal friend of mine, said, no, we deserve to have our term set. And Judge Klein in the first district court, appellate district court, said, I agree with you, and was negotiating terms to make that happen. And so when I went to board, they didn't give me my term. And at this time, SB 260 was a youth offender law that had just passed that was going to give meaningful opportunity of release for anybody that was convicted at 21 and under. I was a true youth offender because I was under 18. I wasn't even an adult yet. And they said, so at the end of that 10th hearing, I said, when am I going to get my youth offender hearing? They said, this was it. I said, this was the same hearing that I got the last time. Nothing had changed. Not one question, not one procedure, not anything. It was a mirror image of an adult hearing. So I said, okay. So I said, I'm going to ask Judge Klein if he can hear the setting of the term issue in my writ. And in deciding that, you should also decide on the SB 260 issue and these other issues that we're going to put around it, so that the board, because I found this unused regulation that said facts of errors. I forget the number of it. It said facts of error. If you had a board hearing and you knew that they committed errors of facts, like factual errors, you can raise that within 180 days and you can get a new hearing. I already knew the board was going to not give me a new hearing there, but I had to go through what they call exhausting your remedies to solve it before you take it to court. So I gave CDCR and the Board of Parole Hearings an opportunity to resolve this, and they said no. Matter of fact, they said on the question of setting your term, we would answer that on a separate piece of paper. Like we would answer that on a separate issue, and it never came in 180 days. It never came until we filed our writ, and then they started to say, "Oh, wait a minute, you were only supposed to do this amount of time," and I think it was like 9 years or something. I can remember. Whoa. 7 years. And so I said, what? That was my term? That was my term? Like 8 years or something like that? And so anyway, I knew it was 31. At the end, it was 31 years. 23 was constitutional excessive punishment. So you do the math between 23 and 31. And so the judge said, yes, I will hear it because I have jurisdiction. I found that word jurisdiction as I was studying law. And I said, Judge Klein, you guys have jurisdiction over this case. You need to hear this one. So here it is. When I was going through the hearing, the judges said there would never be a law firm like O'Melvin and Myers that would spend millions of dollars on a person like William Palmer with a case like this. So we're going to hear this case, and we're going to use this case as what they call it, a precedence. Mm-hmm. And so we went through, and when Judge Klein's court first ruled, they said, just send him back to board and give him a date and send him home. The board waited, and it took about 9-10 months to do that, right? The board waited to the day that I was supposed to go to the hearing to say, no, we're going to appeal. So they were squeezing every bit of time out of me that they could, even though they knew they were in a losing battle. And so we went back to court, and the California Supreme Court said, you can't tell them what to do. You have to create a law that guides them in doing what you want them to do. So the Judge Klein said, oh yeah, we didn't want to even address all of Palmer's issue, but we will now. And they threw the entire law library at him. And that they, instead of some evidence that they could use to convict you, that means some evidence is this: if a correctional officer saw you walking out of line, he can give you a 128, which is a chrono for a warning. He's warning you not to do something wrong. The board could use that warning as a reason to deny you parole 3, 5, 10, 15 years. Oh my God. That's basically another sentence. And that's some evidence that you are not fit to be on the streets again. So the judges said, we're not going to give some evidence to juveniles. We're going to give it's like reasonable. Like you have to have reasonable doubt. Like I can't remember. I'll tell you what it is when I remember it. But some evidence got changed, and that stopped them from denying people just flat out template style. And that was the most crucial part of this ruling. And then after that, they had to show that you were acting as a juvenile at the time of your case. So therefore, they can't hold you to adult standards, and that they have to show you now that you are still acting as a juvenile, or that you're doing something so heinous in prison that they would have to keep you in. And so that broke open the gates, and me and thousands of other people went free. So at the next hearing coming up, hearing 11, I went in there like this. Mr. Palmer, what's your name? I looked to my pet bull. She answered the question. What's your birthday? She answered the question. I said, I don't have to say nothing. The law is written. You got to let me go. You're not going to use one word against me to keep me in here because you need me to say something stupid to keep me in here. And I already know I can say something stupid because you got tricks. And so they said, time out. They said, Mr. Palmer, step out. And they talked to my attorney because she was interrupting and going off on him. They said to her, hey, if we can't get something from him, we'll have nothing on paper to say that we agree and we can let him go. And so I went back in. She said, just be yourself. And I was myself. And they said, Mr. Palmer, you're suitable for parole. We'll see you later. About 6 months. And that was, I believe, in November. I walked out of prison in 2019, in March of 2019, after serving 31 years and 22 days. Amazing. 23 of those was constitutional excessive punishment. And guess what they gave me for that 23 years? $200 and a parole that looks like it's going to last for 5 years. But because of my advocacy, my parole officers and their supervisors won't let me off of parole. I have my own place. I pay $2,200. I pay $2,250 a month for my 1-bedroom apartment. I own a BMW convertible CI, BMW 330 CI, hot rod red. It's a beautiful car. I own a 1955 Thunderbird hardtop removable convertible. I started Life After Next, which is a nonprofit organization, a holistic reentry housing program. I'm the CEO of Studio 3 to the Third Power. We're in the process of buying a theater, Clay Theater on Fillmore Street. As you already said, I'm the sentencing commissioner on the Reentry Council. I'm on the board. I'm a commissioner on the Sheriff Department Oversight Board. I am now the editor-in-chief of the San Francisco Bayview newspaper.
How'd you make all this happen? Like, how did all this happen?
But yet I'm not suitable to get off parole.
Right, yeah. How did you make all this happen for you? Yeah.
Mindfulness.
Yeah. Okay.
So I never really got my transition from boyhood to manhood until I went to Man Up. That was the first part. And I started to love myself. I started to understand mindfulness. Islam said that Allah breathed his breath into the first man. He was just a pile of clay. And when he breathed his breath in, he became an animated human being. And I knew now how to breathe. I took a deep breath. Whenever my anxieties, even today, when I go to leave my house, not so much as before. When I first got out, it was at hypersensitive. But even today, when I go to leave my house with my key, I get anxiety because I never used the key for 31 years to open up any door. Wow. I never knew what was on the other side of that door was not always friendly. And when I would go to the parole office, there were times where I never left out the same door I walked in. I went into a jail cell because they wanted to try to sabotage my case and get me send me back to prison, but they can't. The court ruled that they can't send me back unless I commit another crime. And so I never had a drug test. And so they was urinating me. And I said, I would never pee in another cup of yours. You can go ahead and put me in jail right now, but I'll never pee in another cup. Enough is enough. I never had a dirty test since I was 17 years old. I'm 52 now. What's the problem? And so I started to demand my rights as a human being that is breathing. Taking my deep breaths, and my anxiety would leave every time I would stop and I would breathe. So this mindful practice of loving myself and others, and breathing whenever I faced a challenge, and allowing the formula of solution to come to me instead of desperately chasing for answers. This is how I became successful. And I tell you this, and this is a fact. When I utter a word of what I need and want, it's only a matter of time that it comes. So I'm very careful in my words that I put out into the universe. I don't wish anyone no harm. I try not to even say what's in your heart because I don't want to put anything in your heart that's not there. Wow. But yeah, that's how I did it. And I just came back from Mexico, and that's between us because I wasn't supposed to go. So don't tell nobody without permission.
This podcast comes out
I never
Monday,
asked
William.
for permission. I don't ask for permission. I ask for forgiveness. So I went to Mexico to be with Chip Conley and his MEA program. And he taught me now how to go from middle-age crisis into my elderhood. So I went from manhood into my elderhood just a week ago. When I came back, everybody said, there's something different about you.
Wow.
Shining like a light.
Amazing, man.
Another mindfulness program.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Will I cut you off?
No, just go for
Go
it,
ahead,
Will.
John. No, okay. So I mean, just your story is just fascinating. Like I would think that, or I guess what the stories that I hear or what I've read or what I've seen, and like I really have no, self experience with this, is I would imagine that when you come out of the prison system, that like is it what I guess it was not the case that people didn't want to have anything to do with you or hire you, or so how did you overcome that, or was there some sort of reentry program that helped you to get to where you are today with your apartment and your cars and your jobs and stuff like that? Like, because I mean, to me, that's just, it's like astonishing that I'm so happy you're thriving. But it doesn't seem like it's a typical circumstance for a lot of people that are coming out and re-entering into our society.
I do want to say that I am the norm. When you see headlines on the news that a parolee did this and that, it's because he didn't have a network system. It's because the system failed to provide him with the resources that they need, and he fell back into a desperate state and went back to what he knew to do that caused him to go to prison in the first place. But I am blessed. I was blessed to have a friend named Rayvon Williams. He took me to the DMV in the SII building, get my driver license and social security card. It was the same process that got me out, peer led. It was those who walked the footsteps before me that reached back and said, here, come, I figured this out and I figured that out. This will save you time. This is the way I did it. And that's what we do still today. The most notorious transitional housing program, GEO, for profit, who gives you absolutely nothing and demands everything, who works with the parole office to hinder you if you have the slightest rebellion on making them a profit. They gave me absolutely nothing but a headache. It was like being in jail. I didn't have to sign in and sign out and have restrictions on me. There were other housing programs that didn't have those things. So they chose to make my life like jail when I was free. And so I was rebelling against that. I'm free. I fought for this. And this anger started to build back in me, like, I got to fight to be free when I'm free. And so the parole officer working with GEO was trying to put me in jail. So I'm fighting him. I took my phone, I set it on the desk, press record, and I took my pad and pencil and I said, hey, do you mind if I record some notes of this meeting? Not telling them that the recording is this device. He said, sure, because he thought I was writing it down on this piece of paper. And I caught him in traps. I caught him being hateful. I caught him saying things that was illegal. And when I tried to show his supervisor, he didn't want to listen to it. So he threw me in jail for having an illegal recording. I said, you gave me permission. You want to listen to it? I got the tape. No, I don't want to listen to it. You weren't supposed to record me. I said, you're a service person. You work for me. I pay taxes to pay your bill. And so we had this confrontation. And when they let me out after that one, it was the third time he put me in. And I went into his office, still filled with anxiety every time I go in there. And I looked at him. I said, I apologize. Before we even continue, I apologize. I said, I forgot how I got out. It was, a matter of fact, it was my girlfriend at the time. Her name was Ebony. She said, don't nobody like no old ass man, no old ass cranky man. She was a youngster. She was in her 20s. So I said, you don't know what you're talking about. I have a right to be old. I had the right to be old and cranky. So I said, but you're right. Wisdom do come out the mouths of babes. I said, you're right. So I went into the office. I said, you know what? I forgot how I got out of prison. I said, I stopped loving myself and everybody else around me. And I said, I started hating you because I was hating myself for not figuring this out, for having these anxieties, for not knowing how to survive out here. I started hating myself. I started disliking myself. So I took a deep breath again. And I said, you're only doing what you're supposed to do. I said, I love you. And although I was complaining and protesting and demanding that he be removed, a month later, he was gone off my case. And less than 6 months later, he was fired. He's no longer a parole agent. That's the power of loving words. All you got to do is say, I love you, and all your problems would disappear. I swear. I know you guys think I know there are people out there that's saying that sounds too simplistic. If that was the case, the whole world would be rainbows and
if you're
butterflies.
Talking to anybody who's going to believe you, it's me and Will.
Yeah. I mean, actually, right now I'm taking, based on another guest we had, Dr. James Doty. I'm taking his Cultivating the Heart course at Stanford University, and it's all we're doing is what this program, we're in week 5 right now. It's helping us to, and we do meditations all the time. We create intellectual awareness about how the heart and how to affect the heart and words to use in order to open the heart. And when you open that heart space, like the whole world, like you're saying, William, the whole world starts to open itself to you, right? Because it's like, because we forget. And one of the reasons we forget is we're so driven or so jacked up, like around freaking drugs with the social media and the media itself, and the idea of who we should be and what we should be doing, and and the whole idea that we're not enough. And when we begin to scale back from all of that chatter and all that chaos and all of that, the stuff that pulls us away from our true identity, which is locked somewhere in our heart. For a lot of people, it's locked. And we begin to find that true self, the whole world becomes a whole different place to be in. And William, you I mean, this is a great example of just saying good morning to other people that are in the same situation that you are. To instead of meeting people with angst and fire and hatred, which is just going to create more angst, fire, and hatred, and usually a fight, which is going to probably lead you into a longer sentence or whatever, or who knows what else would where it can. You were just like, hey, like, I'm here with you. I'm not your enemy. I want to be your brother. And everything, like all, like the shield goes down, the hearts open up, the eyes are met, and then you're seeing each other as human beings. Like that whole idea of othering that we talked about, or I mentioned at the intro, and we kind of touched on a little bit here. It's like when you begin to paint somebody as an enemy, paint somebody as like a liberal or this or that or whatever, or like a black person, a white person, a savage or a cockroach. I mean, these are words that have been used to create genocide in our society, or not in our society, in our world, over time, over history. We can really, when you see human beings as human beings with the same basic needs that we all have for love, connection, and belonging, and just to live a human life with those values, things change dramatically. And you're living proof. And in here, instead of getting out of 31 years of incarceration and 23 of those years excessively constitutionally excessive, instead of you being bitter, and wanting to like tear down society, here you are creating opportunities for people to have the same experience when they leave, when they enter reentry. I mean, so congratulations, William, and thank you for. This is just such a beautiful story of what it can be. Yeah, John.
I want to add to that too, and I loved how you put that, William. Is that you forgot how you got out, and that it started with self-love. Yes, you started saying hello to everyone else. You started telling, your parole officer that you love them and that everything else. But it started with the foundation of self-love, and that's where everything else kind of came from, right? And that's huge. And so many people struggle with that. They think that they're loving others. They think that they're exuding compassion and empathy and love. But really, it's a farce, because they can't even love themselves. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
It's a love role. This is what I'm supposed to do to show love.
Yes, the love role.
That's the role that I'm playing. I'm an actor. I know how to pretend that I love you because this is what I saw love to be. And that could be mislove. Right. That could be hurt love. That could be all kind of different types of love, but not true love. When you love self, then you really know how to reflect that. You know how to give love, right? And being in love. Like, I'm in love with me. I love me some me. I spend time in my apartment by myself.
I love me some me.
Yeah. Sorry. Who I love the most? I love me the most, man. I do. I really do. And it's not an egotistical thing. It's a self-healing. It's love. It's self-love. And so you asked me a question too about workplace, right? And this is some of the things that I share with workplace. I try to as a consultant. When we first get out, remember, we coming from a place where even people who were our supervisors were pretty rough on us, right? But we're hard workers. So we're hard workers. We're loyal. We appreciate the opportunity to work for anyone. But in even workplaces that were nonprofits that were supposed to be for formerly incarcerated people, They didn't know how to create an environment that was stress-free, trauma-free, toxic-free for us. They didn't ask us what were our triggers and create that space and was willing to work with it. So I found myself in jobs that I could not even maintain. I was like, I can't do this. I gotta go. And I knew that my purpose in life, I knew what it was. So I was just trying to make money to live. And it's expensive in San Francisco. I couldn't live off of $15 an hour. I can live off of $20 an hour. I mean, I could live, but it wouldn't be in the house that I live in right now. It'd be in a cardboard box, a tent. And I can't do tents. I can't do sidewalks. I can't. It's not in me.
Me neither.
I knew I had to make some changes. So I said, what is it that I go? So my last job had let me go and didn't want to bring me back. And so I took that opportunity to start Life After Next. And I didn't have a paying job from last November to almost this November. I just got a paying job, a 9-to-5 paying job right now. So you ask me, well, how did you pay your bills in the most expensive city in the world? Whenever I got money and I just paid it off, I got bills right now sitting on my table. I said, I get to you when I got it. And that's just the way it's going to be, because I'm not going to stress on that. But I'm not going to also be in a workplace that doesn't understand me. And even if I talk to you and you don't understand me, then I have to go, because this ain't the place for me. And so I wound up in the place that was designed for me. And so now I get to be an editor-in-chief, creating a narrative for not just the Bay View, the city and the district in San Francisco, but this newspaper that spreads throughout the world. And I want to be able, with love, say, this is how Black people need to be understood. And this is what we need to do as a Black community to raise our standard of living and love ourselves and everybody else. And that's my mission. And hopefully one day I'll run for the mayor of San Francisco. That's part of my goal. But, it may not get there.
It's on the vision board, man.
It's on the vision board. I got City Hall.
There you go.
I might end up being a supervisor, or I might be the janitor inside sweeping up. Who knows? But if things go as they have been, it's going to be in a leadership role. I don't know how to do it from behind. I don't know how to do it from the back seat. And matter of fact, this is too. I know we run out of time, but when I first got out of prison and my family picked me up, and after all the hugs and putting my junk inside the trunk, they drove out. They said, "Get out of here. You can't be here. Get out." I said, "No problem. I'm out." And guess what gate they drove me out of? Gate 9. But that's a whole nother story.
There you go.
We drove out the prison, and not more than 2 blocks away, they had to pull over so I can vomit, because I wasn't used to motion.
Whoa.
I got car sick.
Whoa.
And the only time that I can ride in a car without feeling nauseous is if I'm driving it. And that was a sign to me from the beginning I left prison. If you ain't driving a car, that car ain't the right one for you.
Wow.
I love that.
William.
I don't even know where we go from there. I think that
it's like, what I will say as far as like the 9 goes, like, so I did a little, I spoke with William. I don't know how long ago was William, like 7-8 months ago. And he's like, "Can we do episode number 9?" And I was like, "Sure, we'll do number 9." He goes, "That's my lucky number." I'm like, "All right, great." And then something happened. I can't remember. I think we double booked it. I think we screwed up on our. And then sure enough, what episode is today? 18.
18.
Right. 9 times 2. And it was and here you are sharing your grace with us, and your willingness to hang in there and just to see. I mean, that whole idea of a vision board in prison doesn't sound like those two things would go together.
No.
And here you are, living your life out there and helping others that are in the same situation, and navigating them, to a productive life and a loving life and a life that's meaningful. So anything else before we close, William, that you'd like to share, or maybe you can talk about your nonprofit and how our audience can help you grow?
Yes, for sure. I'm in my turn stage. And I've always been a mentor, and that is being a mentor to others and an intern to that same person so that you can learn from that person as well.
That's cool.
That's
Never
from
heard
Chip
that.
Conley. So I got to give Chip Conley credit. Matter of fact, Chip Conley, I don't know if you guys know who he is. Look him up. MEA, Modern Elder Academy. He's my new foster father. I told him, you're going to adopt me and take me on into the rest of my life. But there's a guy named Larry Green. We call him Mujahid Shabazz. His name is Larry Green. He's been in prison for 48 years. He's innocent. He's out of San Francisco. He lied on by the person who actually did the crime, who turned evidence and got like he was that protected witness stuff. And I'm fighting. I started a coalition called the Exodus Coalition to help people who are innocent in prison to get out. So if there's any attorneys, anybody who wants to fund this organization for the Innocence Projects, please contact me through this mindfulness, Men Talking Mindfulness, and they'll hook you up with me. So that's one project out of Studio 3 to the Life After Next. We're trying to buy our first building. It's going to cost us about $8.5 million. So if you know anybody out there who wants to be an investor in the lives of people who are getting out, and I say the lives of the people getting out, not the building, although you will be investing in the building, but this is for the people who are getting out. Please contact Men Talking Mindfulness as well to hook you up. I mean, that deal is being written right now, so we're desperately still seeking to raise that money. I also started Studio 3 to the Third Power, and I'm the CEO of. We're buying the Clay Theater on Fillmore. This is so that we can have film festivals, other types of events where people want to present themselves and their vision on how to move the Black community forward, especially in San Francisco. We went from 14% down to 4%, and they're trying to price us out of San Francisco. But remember, we started jazz here in San Francisco, and it transferred to New Orleans. So we're trying to bring that jazz back to San Francisco. We're trying to bring that culture and that thriving music that touches the soul back to San Francisco. It's a shame if our population actually disappears and become extinct in San Francisco. So if you want to help us, it's a $6.2 million building. If you want to get involved in that investment, we have something for you. And last but not least, the Bayview newspaper, the San Francisco Bayview newspaper, has been around for over 3 decades, and it's struggling. Our operating budget is $250,000 and it's shoestring. I mean, sometimes we can't even pay the bill. So this is a historic newspaper that should be well funded. And we need at least $1 million a year to expand our media and our presence and our voice to make sure that people who are incarcerated, they actually, what's unique about our paper is that those who are incarcerated, they write to us an article and we print it word for word. So the voices of the voices that are inside, they get a voice in our newspaper. That's uniquely to us. And we also just make sure that we bring up issues of all people who are incarcerated and those who are suffering in the Black community, and also the good things that happen in the Black community, and just trying to help be in control of our own narrative. So we're looking for people who want to be benefactors to keep this paper thriving and growing. And I think that's it. And again, I just want to shout out again to Modern Elder Academy. And I am officially the cohort of the first all-Black Modern Elder Academy. And I am a badass Black Crystalist member of the Modern Elder Academy. We get to name our own cohort. So all you badasses out there that is listening to this broadcast, I'll see you when we meet up again. And we became family. We love each other. It was an experience that everybody should participate in. So thank you again. I want to thank Men Talking Mindfulness for just connecting with me in the first place, giving me this platform. Of course, I don't know if you can hear the motorcycle.
That's not me, John. That's San Francisco. Rare Engines over there.
Thank you for giving me this platform to speak on and to share my love with the community and all of you soul brothers and sisters. If you got a good soul, you my soul brothers and sisters out there. And I know this topic of Kanye has just come up in the media, but I heard Russell Simmons give a good explanation on this. and it was so loving and so mindful. Russell's is a cool, mindful brother, man. I love me some Russell Simmons. I know he has some of his own issues to deal with, but as a person and a mindful person, the brother is sharp. So he did it better than I can. So we want to love each other. Our Jewish brothers, our Christian brothers, our Muslim brothers, black, white, tall, short, heterosexuals, everybody, man. We got to come in a way of love. So when I start this new political party, it's open to all those who want to just love. It's going to be the love party, right? And we're going to dominate the Republicans and Democrats, and we're going to sweep elections, and we're going to put people into positions that love America and all of its citizens. So that's what's up. That's what's on my table, man. That's what's on my vision board.
I love it.
Thank you, William. Thank you. And you can also find William on LinkedIn. That's how we found each other. William hit me up. So William Palmer on LinkedIn. But anything, John, before we go?
I just want to thank you, William, for sharing your story and for looking at it through a different lens than you could have, and looking at it through your heart and being open to love yourself and being open to love one another or love others. And bringing that message to people rather than hate and anger, which is 100% justifiable in what you described as your story. But you didn't choose that path. And I want to thank you for not choosing that path. And I want to thank you for sharing your story with us and our listeners, our audience today, and for those who listen in later. So thank you so much, William. That's all I have.
Yeah. Well, we have
as a youth offender, all our children are our children. So let's love and protect our children. And anyone who harms our children, let's separate them and heal them so they won't harm anybody else, themselves or any other children. So please, in moving forward, let's protect all our children.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you talked a lot about the importance of breathing. So we'll just finish with some breath to remind everybody of how incredibly we'll just do 5 breaths again. If you just take 5 breaths, anytime you're feeling stressed, anytime you're feeling anxious, anytime you're stepping into the unknown, it will help guide you, and it'll also not just open your mind and relax the body, but it will open your heart. And I think we've learned a lot from William about the importance of doing that and how that brings forth the love. So let's just do those 5 breaths and that'll be it. So so ground yourself, whether you can still drive and do this or whatever you're doing, and we're just going to breathe. Let's start a nice little exhale. Big, powerful inhale, really deep inhale, very expansive inhale. Give yourself a nice exhale out. And again, in. Relaxing, peaceful exhale. Few more in. Maybe a little bit more. Out. And last 2 in. Out. One more. Exhale. Last moment as you exhale and come back to normal breath, just put your hand over your heart. And this is the intelligence that connects us to our deeper self, to everybody else, and to our purpose. So awesome. William, thank you. John, thank you. This is an incredible conversation we had today. And William, please keep in touch. Let us know how you're part of our community now. And let us know how we can help you. And thank you again for sharing your story and reminding us to breathe and love. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And peace, John, William, and our mindful Talking Men community.
Absolutely.
Word, brother. Peace.
For joining us today. We hope you walk away with some new tools and insights to guide you on your life journey. New episodes are being published every week, so please join us again for some meaningful discussion. For more information, please check out mentalkingmindfulness.com.